right show because we always have some amazing topics, and tonight is no different. Tonight we are going to have one of my good friends, Reverend Michael Carter, here tonight speaking about his new book that's coming out, and it's very interesting. He was here talking about his other book the last time that we had him here, and he's got not only does he have this new book that's coming out, but he's also going to be featured on Ancient Aliens this season. Reverend Michael Carter definitely stays busy. He is lecturing and speaking all over the place, and always has some very, very interesting concepts and theories about, all different topics in the UFO field. Now, and also God. And, it's always such a, we talk about this, but it's always such a touchy subject when you get into religion, and whether it be the paranormal or UFOs and aliens, things like that. And I absolutely love having Reverend Carter on the show because he has such an interesting take on all of this. And so he was telling me before the show started that the two books that he has now kind of connect with each other. So we're going to talk about that as well. But his new book is called A New World You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. And we're hoping that Renee will make it here soon. We had some technical difficulties, and he wasn't on the air yet when we went off. So hopefully when he gets here, he'll get connected through. Renee, if you're hearing us, once you get there, let me know that you're on the show with us, and we'll bring you on in as well. So, Reverend Carter, are you there?
Yes, right here.
Thank you so much again for coming on the show. We always, love having you as a guest. How have you been?
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been okay. It's been a long day today. I was getting a little fatigued, but you know how the adrenaline pumps up right when you have to do something. So I'm with a cup of tea and surrounded by my Bibles and books, and I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. I mean, I always enjoy our talks. And, the last time you were here and we were talking about your prior book, Alien Scriptures, it was, interesting because whenever you talk about extraterrestrials, UFOs, alien beings, anything like that, along with, Jesus or God's name, like, people freak out. Like that, oh my gosh, we're going to be struck by lightning for even, putting them in both in the same sentence. And but we are starting to see a turn. I mean, I've had a lot of people on the show recently, and even in the paranormal world, where Catholic priests and different people are starting to come forward, and it seems like even their opinions are starting to change on all of this. Is that where you see this going as well?
Well, yes, and it has to, because this is the new world where we're going into. And yes, the Pope, who's very progressive and speaking out against and about, talking about redistribution of wealth and just capitalism gone wild, talking about gay marriage. I mean, he's very progressive, and they've brought up, the Vatican has been talking about extraterrestrials for years now, but very openly now, and I think it's part of the disclosure. Now, I think disclosure is already happening,
right?
But no one wants to be on the back end of this, and especially religion. And I argue in the book, and argue is too strong a word. I suggest in the book that Hinduism, that Catholicism, they will have an easier time making the adjustment when disclosure is more prominent or more official, because they have in their hierarchy, well, it's not even a hierarchy, they have in their cosmology messengers, saints, messengers, angels, and so they make room for that. Whereas Protestantism, it's just one God, and, okay, we could argue the Trinity, but they don't make any room for for messengers or angels, and so they may have a more difficult time trying to navigate those waters. So Catholicism is probably really ahead of the game as far as, branches of Christianity goes, just for that reason.
Right, and the following, is so great. And, for me, I always knew this time was going to come, but I always wondered, how difficult it would be for a lot of Catholics to go from, being told and being driven into their, brains that there is no such thing as aliens and, or ghosts or any of the above. And now all of a sudden, it's like, as you said, this Pope is much different than any of them that we've had, and he is very open, about the fact that, yes, it needs to be more training, for things like possessions, stuff like that. But again, they're very, very open as far as when it comes to alien life and extraterrestrials. And I always felt like it's going to be kind of a double-edged sword, because everything that's kind of coming up now and the reality of things and the connections all points to a lot of this. But again, when you've been taught generation after generation after generation that, none of this stuff exists, and then for these bombshells to, keep happening, I don't think that it's really, hit people yet, but when it does, how prominent do you think that this is going to be? I mean, because for me, I think this is going to be, very life-altering for a lot of people.
I don't know if it will be as much. I really don't. I used to believe that. But if you look at the Pew data, people doing surveys, the Pew data, PEW, I mean, listen, over 50% of the American people believe that the government is lying to us about UFOs. And the sky is not falling. The sky is not falling. People, yes, of course, there are going to be people who may be more fundamentalistic or conservative in the bent. They may have problems adjusting, but I think we'll do just fine. And I have to tell you, when I was talking about this topic 15, 20 years ago, there were really no conservative or Orthodox Christians talking about it. I'm not in that group. But now you do have writers like L.A. Mazzulli and Michael Heiser. Now the only difference is, they're saying, star people do exist, but they're fallen angels. They're all evil. But it's a far cry from saying they don't exist at all. Human evolution is slow. But I'm not quite sure that we would have the great upheaval. I think shows like Ancient Aliens, come on, that show's been on 7 seasons.
Yes.
It's got to be because people are curious and they believe. Now, timing is everything. Maybe 15 years ago, a show like that would be laughed off. I know, listen, even with just me talking about this, I'm pretty recently out of the closet, to coin a phrase, if you will, because when I first started talking about this 15, 20 years ago, I never mentioned any of my personal experiences. My first publisher was persistent. She said, Michael, you've got to tell people what's going on. You've got to, and she was right. And I've been well received. Yes, of course, there are people who call me many names and what have you, but most people are saying, right on, man, I'm glad to hear it. And you know what? I've had those experiences too. So I'm not sure that it would be as great upheaval as we were led to believe. And I think part of that is part of the acclimation process that the government does, these movies that Spielberg and these other people do to get us acclimated to what it would do, how would the public respond. I think there are a lot of forces at work here, but we'll be just fine. The thing is how will we, how will we endure? Because now that we realize we're not at the top of the food chain and that there are people who are technologically and certainly more spiritually advanced, not all of them, but many of them are, that means we have to bring our A game too. to the table, and look at what we're doing to the planet. Look at what we're doing to each other. Look what we're doing, to the ecosystem, and we fight too much, and we have to kind of check that if we really want to, kind of grow up and be part of this cosmos that's teeming with life.
Absolutely. Now, your new book is coming out, and many people know you for your other book that you brought out, the Alien Scriptures, and wow, that actually got a lot of attention, that book, and now you're saying that this kind of ties in with that book, correct?
Yeah, first of all, it's out already. It came out October 13th.
Okay.
And it ties in this way. The first part of the book, I go over some material. There's a glossary, and I probably should have put it in the first book, about and passages in the Bible where. But then this book goes to the next phase, which is this. Who and what is God? And so what I do, there's a chapter in there for atheists. There's a chapter in there about Catholic and Protestant thinkers from medieval time, at least with the Catholic thinkers, who were talking about possible life on other planets. But I think that when you read the literature, many contactees, including myself, we have to broaden our perspective of religion, maybe even transcend it, because it's very immature. Now, I say that hesitantly because I know good people, my parents, one of them, who are pretty traditional in a lot of ways around theology. But this thing of if someone believes something different, that they're going to hell, this thing of this deity like a Santa Claus that's going to punish you if you're naughty or nice. Many of our contactees and many of our star visitors are saying, you got to do something about that, because that's not the way the universe works. There's no one that's going to throw lightning bolts at you because you're a sinner. This is not the message of the saints and avatars that have come to us. And so part of growing up is, even if you don't believe in star people, is that when do I start believing things on my own? Just because my parents believed one way doesn't mean that I believe. Maybe I have a different experience. Maybe I don't believe in anything at all. But that's part of the maturation process. And so in order for us to go to the next stage of consciousness, we have to stop looking outside ourselves for saviors, for powers outside of ourselves, because we're part of the all that is. We're part of that. And Jesus even says, greater works than I do, you can do. The kingdom of heaven, if we want to use those words, is within you. So if it's within me, that means I'm part of it. That means I'm already swimming in it. And it takes away separation. There's a law of one in the universe. And unfortunately, just pick up the newspaper. Our religions separate. Love doesn't separate. Love unites.
True. True. Very true. Hold on just one second, because I believe that we may have Renee on the show with us now. Renee, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Great to have you.
I was trying to blog talk, but it's just like, okay. Oh.
Yeah, well, and I have to apologize to many of our listeners. Normally on Wednesday nights, our show is simulcast on Blog Talk as well as the DTM site, and it's great because a lot of times they can get the archives right away. If people are on the go, they can call in, from their cell phones, different things. And the lovely Blog Talk, a few minutes before we went on, their system went down. So we were trying to make a quick shift and change phone numbers on the promos and do all that fun stuff. But I thank everybody who did make it here tonight for joining us. And sorry you were having such a hard time, Renee, but hey, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have all these issues.
It's a conspiracy.
Well, as you heard, we've been talking with Reverend Carter about his new book that he has coming out, and something that you said is very interesting, Reverend, is, when we talk about, God, everybody has, these differences of an opinion based on how they were brought up, things like that. But it is something that, again, like you said, if you were to say, yes, I believe in God, like for me, I do believe in God. Always have. I grew up Catholic, and so many of the things that I was being taught and told did not make sense to me, and I had a problem with that, so I kind of started seeking my own, answers and information and doing my own research. And, do I believe that, God per se is, some light-skinned guy that comes down, look like us? Everybody's got an opinion of what God looks like, but nobody has, seen him to come and say, well, this is exactly who he is and what it looks like, and have all the answers. So this is kind of like, taboo, mixing these kind of topics together. I mean, my listeners, they love this kind of stuff, because they love, to hear other people's opinions, things like that. But for mainstream, this can rattle a few cages of people who are very, die hard. I know it's bad enough that they feel like, if you are, say, researching the paranormal, that you're, dabbling with the devil and things like that. But what kinds of comments and things do you get when you're out speaking about extraterrestrial life? And
I got to tell you, I was in a bar having a burger and a beer, and on several occasions, and just last week, and people have come up to me and said, I've seen you on Ancient Aliens. I love it. Keep up the good work. And, listen, Christina, and I mean this, from the bottom of my heart, there are always going to be people who are going to have their cages rattled. Okay? That's just fine. But you can't focus on that. Quantum physics tells us that what you focus on, you create. So if you need money and you focus on how broke you are, then you block money from coming to you. If I was to focus on what people disagreed with me, then I wouldn't open my mouth. I mean, if people's cages get rattled, that's not my problem. They need to be able to deal with that or not. But I have had a very, very pleasant response to what I'm doing. And because, listen, I'm standing on the shoulders of other people. I'm not the first minister to talk about this. I'm the first minister maybe as a man of color and have said that I've had contacts, and I'm a minister, but people like Dr. Barry Downing, Virginia Brazington, who's she's gone now, but she was right here from North Carolina. I mean, there are other people who have talked about this, and so I stand on their shoulders. I may not agree with them all theologically, and as far as I know, they may not have had any contact experiences. I think that sets me apart in some ways, and it doesn't matter what people say they believe. You know what? I know what you believe by how you treat me. You can say you're a Christian. You can say, Jesus says, by their fruits you shall know them. It doesn't matter what you say you believe. I'll know what you believe by how you treat me, how you treat the earth, how you treat people. That tells me more than if you're in church tonight, Wednesday night Bible study, or if you're at the mosque or the temple on Friday for Shabbos. That's nice. That's great, but how many times have you met people who they say all the right things, they're at church, they take communion, they do all the things, and sometimes they can be the most hateful, bigoted people that you've ever met.
Sure.
So absolutely.
About what you believe, it's how you treat me. Your life will be the greatest sermon you will ever preach.
I love that.
That's what I
do love that, because that is so very, very true. I mean, we notice right now that there is more negativity as the truth and the veil gets thinner, you notice that there is a lot more negativity that we're battling all the time. But it is very true. I always tell people all the time that, you know, we have to stop giving up so much power of our, you know, over our lives and happiness to other people, because there's always going to be people that disagree with you. There's going to be people who like you for no other reason other than they just don't like you. They, you know, there's maybe no reason other than that. Maybe somebody else doesn't like you or whatever. But we have to push those people out of our circles, you know, and not be bothered by that. Instead, you know, surround ourselves, you know, with positive people and, you know, supportive people and like-minded people. Because like you said, you can, you know, create your own hell in your life. And people always want to blame everybody else, but they're not really looking at who has the most control, which is themselves.
Well, the people, listen, I want to be clear. There are people who are challenging, and that's good, because they are our teachers. Everybody's not going to sing Kumbaya. You can't surround yourself all the time with positive people, because then you wouldn't learn your life lessons. But what I'm saying is that I don't focus on that. I'm not an ostrich, but, you know, there are going to be people who don't agree with me, and that's fine. I don't know what path they're on. They don't know what path I'm on. I have to trust that they're on the path they need to, as long as they're not disrespectful or belligerent or, you know, going to be violent with me. I just try and bless them and move on. Do I lose my temper and stuff like that? Of course I do. I'm human. But the evolution of consciousness is that you realize that you can't control situations, but you control how you respond to them.
Very true.
And people have been telling us that for years, for eons. And the Buddhists talk about that. Of course, Yeshua talks about that. So, you know, there are people who think I'm a nut, probably, but I don't worry about that. I can just laugh at that. I'm 58 years old. My ego, I don't care. You think I'm a nut, I'm a nut. But the point is, there are more people out here who say, hey, brother, right, you keep doing it. I'm with you. Or I've had that. Well, you know what? I don't kind of agree with you, but I think there's some truth to what you're saying. And so, you know, I remember Marianne Williamson, you know, who really kind of got put on the map by A Course in Miracles. I remember her saying, I used to go to her lectures in New York, and I remember her saying that for anybody who truly has something to say, there's always going to be someone who really needs to hear it. And so you speak the truth even if your voice shakes. And this happens to be my truth. It's not the only truth. It's my truth. And so I'm not saying that people have to believe exactly what I believe. I'm just saying, you know what? I've had some experiences with some off-world intelligences. It's changed my life for the better. And I'm just going to share where my research has led you. You don't need to have people from another dimension tell you how to love. But this is what happened to me. And people will either say, I wonder what's on Monday Night Football tonight, and turn me off, or they may listen. But it's no stress for me because I sleep well either way. It's just where I am now. And it's a peaceful place.
Isn't it, though? I mean, it seems that once you can get to a place like that, I mean, things around you change dramatically. Because there's so much stress in everybody's everyday lives, you know, that it can just disable you at times if you allow it. So to get to that point, I think, is very, very important, you know, overall.
Yeah. And it's taken me lifetimes to get here, so you know I'm going to savor it. Because I know I must have been a fool in other lifetimes. But anyway, in this one, I'm kind of mellowing out. And so that's all I'm saying. And there's a new world that's coming, and it's here. And that new world says that, guess what? You're not alone in the universe. There are people who are technologically and spiritually centuries advanced. And if you want to be in the club, and eventually we're all going to be in the club, eventually, whether it takes, eons, then you're going to have to grow up.
Right.
And so this is where I am. Again, I don't have to argue about Catholicism or Muslims or whatever. You know, when our energies meet, and you see me for who I am, and I see you for who you are, it really doesn't matter what you believe, because that's when we'll know. But if you don't like me because my hair is in dreadlocks, or my lips may be a little thicker, or I don't like you because your grandfather owned slaves, or maybe you like to sleep with different people than what I do, if I'm still hung up in that, the train has left the station.
Right.
The train has left the station.
Yeah. But people have to realize that we all have destinations in our lives, and that, you know, the destination is not as important as the journey itself.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, who was it that said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why?
Yeah.
Two most important days of your life.
I like that. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, the topics that we are talking about, you know, as you said, some people would not be interested whatsoever in listening to what we're talking about. But yet there are tens of thousands of people who absolutely are. You know, I'm loving that. I'm looking at chat, and, you know, our chat room is always, I love the people in our chat, but, you know, they're, you know, making comments on, you know, they love what, you know, we're saying, what we're talking about, very uplifting discussions, things like that. So, again, this is the whole reason that we do these shows. This is the whole reason we do what we do, is to spread this information to whoever it is meant, you know, to be directed to, that will, you know, it'll help them in some way, or, you know, help educate them in some way. Because
you're being listened to. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You're being listened to by intelligences that are not necessarily from here. I mean, this is being broadcast out into the ethers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so you'd be surprised who your audience is right now, or maybe you wouldn't.
Yeah. I don't know that I would be. I don't know that I would be too, you know, taken back by anything nowadays.
Yeah, I've tried that with you already.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I you know, love this, and it's such a journey, you know, of looking at you. You know, time goes by and you evolving as a person, and all the different things that happen. You know, for me, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I'd probably say, you know, a lot more down times than up times for a very long time. But the one thing that it never did was it never, like, turned me, you know, into something that I wasn't, or make me into, you know, this horrible person. I truly believe that everything that we go through, good and bad, you know, there's a reason for. And, you know, if you continue to keep having the same results, you know, it's like you keep bumping your head. Eventually you've got to do something different, you know, and it really is, the more you open your eyes, the more you understand. So many people are, you know, when we talk about disclosure, they are waiting, you know, for some big announcement to be put across the television waves that, you know, the big mothership has just landed on, you know, the White House lawn, and our ambassador will be out there to do it and everything like that. You know, what people don't realize is that, you know, disclosure is now. It is right. We're going through it. It is not going to be that they're going to say, hey, everybody, you know, here's a mothership, you know, landing on the White House lawn. This stuff has been happening for a while. People just weren't paying attention. But you want to know about disclosure, just look around, take a look at what's going on. And, you know, a lot more people are, I think, starting to look at the whole topic and things differently.
Well, this is why I'm saying that I don't think it would be that the sky would fall. And, of course, we see with Australia and Britain and France and, of course, you know, Latin American countries, Mexico, and, you know, with the Mayan artifacts. I mean, they've released their most of their UFO material. So disclosure is happening now. And again, with the book, A New World If You Can Take It, this is it. This is the new world that we're living in, where and it'll be scary for some people who are more traditional in some of their beliefs. But even now, we realize that science and spirituality go hand in hand. These off-world intelligences, they have the technology to get around and to shut down our nuclear silos and come through our walls and these types of things. They have to have an understanding of physics, or quantum physics at least. And so, and also many of them are telling us that, you fight too much, that you are destroying each other. And this is not the way that we want you to evolve. And so when we stop looking outside ourselves, now I want to be clear, this is not saying, and hopefully you'll buy the book, but I'm not saying that there is no God and not using that word. It's just not a man up in the sky punishing us if we're naughty or nice. It's an intelligence. It's an energy. And so there are universal laws that we can tap into to help us commune more with this energy. The law of karma. What you put out comes back. In the East, they call it karma. We call it cause and effect here. Jesus says you reap what you sow. The Buddha says that, the way you see the world is the way the world will treat you. This is just a law. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't believe in that, but I completely do.
They don't have to, because everybody, sometimes we can be so concerned about what others believe or don't believe that we don't have to look at our own growth.
Right.
And so there are some people who don't believe it, and they may not believe it till several lifetimes from now. They may not ever believe it at all, but that's okay. As long as it makes them a more loving human being, a more integrated, a more whole human being, then they don't have to believe what I believe.
Right, right.
Mine's not a better way. Mine is just a different way. Neil Walsh talks about this very much, wonderfully in his Conversations with God books. And he says, if we could just say that mine is not a better way, it's just a different way, probably half the tension we have in this world would drop by half. But we're always saying, well, you don't believe that, but I believe it. And so it works for me, and you should try it. And no, they don't have to try it. Again, all I have to do is see how you live. That's all I have to do. And that's all you'll see from me. Then you'll know what I believe. Does that mean I won't make mistakes? Of course not. That's where forgiveness comes in. Does that mean I won't say stupid things sometimes? Of course not. But basically, if you get worried about who believes what and they don't get it and they don't believe, that's just as we get older, Michael feels, Christina has to feel. You don't have to take people's inventory so much. Part of inner peace is not having to worry about what other people say, do, and think. You just don't have time for it anymore. It's just a waste of energy.
That is very, very true.
You don't have time for it. Whether they believe in universal law or not, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. That is very, again, this is one of the reasons I love talking to you. You are just so comfortable in who you are, why you're here, what you're supposed to do, and I'm telling you can hear that peacefulness within your voice, within your energy that you put out. I'm sure that other people can pick this, up too. But every time I touch, I love it. It's just, I feel such a connection.
Yeah.
And you can tell that what you're saying is very truthful and comes, from your heart. It's not something just rehearsed or just something to say. You can definitely tell this is, how you feel, and it's very powerful.
Well, I thank you for that. And part of that I got from friends. I have a real good friend, a healer, Rosemary Starr, who's probably listening, my publicist, Mark Eddy. I mean, they're people like that as well. And so, football players don't hang out with chess players. You kind of vibrate to people. You draw into people who vibrate on the same level, at least for the most part. not saying that football and chess players are bad. I'm just using that as an analogy just in case someone gets overly sensitive. But the book, but it's a new world if we can take it. And I think if we can get past, because for me, I say that Jesus may be a hybrid, okay? But for me, it's the message is more important than the messenger. Everything written in the Bible could be gospel truth, or it could be some ET stuff in there, which I happen to believe it is. But it really doesn't matter as long as there's that message, and it's there. Whether it's in the First Testament, which is the Old Testament, Second Testament, New Testament, whether it's in the Quran, whether it's in the Buddhist Dhammapada or the Upanishads, there's this one theme, and it's all about oneness, that we are one with our Creator and one with creation. I look at the cross, and that's what I see. I see the horizontal bar as my relationship with human beings, and I see the vertical as my relationship with the cosmos and all that is. Now, it's an old symbol. It's been around since pre-Egyptian times. But, because these things are symbols. And Carl Jung told us that the soul speaks to us in symbolism. And so part of and I'm sure you're very intuitive, a psychic person, you have to be able to interpret these symbols.
Yes.
You can't get there with just the left brain. You can't get there. You can't get there from here. And so what in my contacts, this is what I've been given to preach this message of that, and this is old, my dear. I'm not telling you anything new. Dr. King talked about it, Jesus, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, that there is a oneness, and that no one gets to tell me who or what God is. I get to decide that. I get to evolve. That's part of what evolution is. But there's oneness, and if I'm still worried about who you sleep with and what color you are, and if you're a Tea Party person or if you're an Obama person, that's not the maturity that these brothers and sisters are talking about. That's not what that's not what they're contacting people for.
Right. Now,
and that's what I talk about. That's what I talk about in the book.
Well, let's go back. So for if some of our listeners, by some means, don't know, who you are or your story, maybe you can kind of give a little rundown of how you had contact and where it kind of began for you.
Okay. All right. I grew up I'm going to give you the truncated version as quickly as I can. And I want to hear more what Renee, is that the brother's name on Renee?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I want him to jump in too.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be in.
Well, okay, let me make it quick because so Brother Renee can get in here. I grew up as a Baptist, okay? The whole, African-American Baptist thing, the emotionalism in the church, the heaven and hell, who's saved and who's not. And that really, I grew up with that. And part of that was wanting to please my parents. I got baptized Easter Sunday, 1980 at Trinity Baptist Church. The traditional thing. But I started going to other churches, Catholic churches, what have you. But when I had my experience, now as a kid, I had weird experiences. I would see balls of light in my room, little orbs and stuff, but I didn't know. I thought it was normal. And then I would wake up sometimes with blood on my pillow. I thought my ear was bleeding, but I later realized it was probably an implant or something. It was my nose that was bleeding. But again, I didn't know. I guess my mom would say, boy, are you okay? There's blood on the pillow. But on December 28th, 1989, I went to see the pyramids on the Yucatan and Chichen Itza and Tulum, and I had come back home, and I went to a little gathering, a little party, stayed for about 90 minutes. No beverages were consumed by me, and I went home, and in the middle of the night, I remember waking up, and there was a being at the edge of my bed, and my room was lit up, and this being was glowing, and he had on, I'm assuming it was a he had on He was chalk white with the big head and the wraparound eyes. Very thin. His jumpsuit was really tight fitting, like aluminum foil. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And my partner at that time, who later became my first wife, she just wouldn't wake up. She was just out. And I pulled the cover up over my head. I was scared. And I felt like I was outside. I pulled the cover up over my head, and I heard this whoosh, whoosh, like this wind, and the temperature changed. And it was freezing that night. And when I got back in, when I pulled the covers down, it's like I never left the room. And I went to a psychiatrist shortly thereafter, and I started having these visits for about 8 months, every full and new moon, like clockwork. I knew they were coming, and they would paralyze me at first. And you can read the book and I'll go,
right.
But at the time I was into metaphysics. I had left the Baptist tradition. I was looking at metaphysics and just different ways with the Unity Church, religious science, psychic phenomenon. So I was already opening myself up. Now, of course, more conservative people would say you're opening yourself up to the devil, but no, that's not what happened. But what happened was I started opening my mind. I started to evolve. And they kept coming. They still come to this day, different races. But I started not being so afraid of life. I started being able to say, I love you, or I'm scared, or I don't know, or I just started to become more real. Now, I was doing other things at the time, too. I was doing Reiki and getting massage and going to therapy, but I was at this incredible growth process that I believe that they accelerated. And I started not seeing separation so much, which I never really did. I never really did. I wasn't raised that way. It's almost like I knew from another time. But even, I felt more of a oneness with the earth. I felt more oneness with animals. And, now physiologically I got by on less sleep. My hair grows very fast, my hair and nails. I'm much, 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 much more psychic or intuitive than I ever was. And, of course, I was doing hands-on healing. I was doing Reiki. But then when they came, I don't even know if it's Reiki anymore. It's not Reiki. I call it that. But whenever they come, my energy changes. And so it's much, much more powerful. But I just changed. I just changed. I felt more intelligent. In a lot of ways, but and I'm less fearful. Obviously, I'm talking about these things, and my parents, they're cool. They don't think I'm crazy, but I'm sure they may think it's a bit strange. But I just don't care. Freedom is just another word for having nothing left to lose. I feel freer, and now
right.
I'm going to shut up. I'm going to shut up and let Renee talk.
There's your intro, Renee.
Ta-da! Well, when you get into contact with the various beings that are out there, you do feel a lot of peace. You see things totally differently. Even with people who even had near-death experiences too,
yeah.
They seem to come back different because you get to see the whole picture and you have an understanding that we are all connected.
Yeah.
Every one of us.
Yeah.
And, you start learning that process that, no matter what race you're from, what religion you're from, we are all that part of that spiritual connection. It's just a lot of people keep looking on the outside. They said, try looking inside. You'll get a really clear picture of how we are. I know Christina knows how I am with people. I'm just like outgoing, fun. People like to hang around me, and just like everybody draws over to Christina. So it's amazing, when you see beyond.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it's not like this kumbaya thing. There has to be justice. We've seen several things in the paper, whether it's Ferguson or whether it's going to be Ukraine, and of course it's a mess in the Middle East. It doesn't mean that you just put your head in the sand and say, well, if I just hold Putin's hand and just squeeze it a couple of times, we'll all be brothers and sisters. No, there's a justice component to this. But it's just that instead of reacting, one becomes more proactive. It's the journey without distance because it's an inner journey. And I know a lot of the things that used to upset me or what have you, I just don't have that anymore. Yes, do I get on my wife's nerves sometimes? Absolutely, and vice versa. But it's just that you handle things differently. Now, I don't have a lot of patience for certain things, and I always work on that. But it's not because I'm better or I'm above it. It's just that what they've taught me to do is how to use my energy differently, not just healing energy or whatever, but the way I prioritize my life, the way I spend my time, who I spend my time with, not just about abundance and money, but how to use my time and my energy differently. So it encompasses all of that. You touched on it, Christina, when you said about who you hang out with and whatever. And it's not about being better than anybody else.
No.
It's just about, I don't have time for nonsense as much.
Right.
And it may not be nonsense to someone else. I don't get into debate so much about religion, or I see people on Facebook and they get into arguments with people they don't even know.
Right.
It's like, are you kidding me, man? And so it's I've gotten more mature. Dare I say it? I've gotten, and I'm about as immature as that inner child. I can be, you know what I mean. But listen, it should happen. Like I said, I'm in my late 50s. I'm closer to the end of the story than the beginning. One would hope that one gleans some wisdom, or some
exactly
as you get. And it's not a guarantee. Aging is not optional.
Right.
But it's been a journey, and that's why that's the next phase of the book, because now in the first book I'm saying, these are extraterrestrial stories. That's not all they are. They're books about, there's wisdom in the Bible, there's love, there's justice, but basically, my hypothesis is that these are extraterrestrial stories. Everywhere you see angel, if you put the word alien there, it makes more sense. But the second part of the book is the second book is about how do we experience our own connection with creation. Some would call it God. Doesn't matter what you call it, Allah, creation, God. And I talk about the Palladians in the book, and they call it creation. And they say that creation is above God. They said there's a God. There's like an E.T. who is a god of certain human races. But above all that is something that's called creation. And it is an energy. It is a spirit. You can't even put words to it. And that's what you want to connect with. But we've been worshiping ETs in a lot of ways. And so the point is that you don't have to worship anybody. You can have reverence for life. You can have reverence, but you are part of the whole. The kingdom of heaven is within you. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to find God. God is not lost. But if we're not, we can feel that we lose our connection when we get depressed, when we get angry, if we have addictions. But that doesn't mean that we're not connected. We have obstacles in our way, but we're always there. There's nowhere you can go where you're not connected. But if you don't plug it in, it doesn't work.
Very true. Very, very true. Renee, of course, you and I mean, we talk all the time about, all of these different topics and stuff even before, they come on the shows. And, I mean, we know, even within the different groups or different things that come up, we have found that, if you do have any kind of extraterrestrial contact, and you're also religious, they make it as if it's not supposed to all go together. You know, it makes you feel as if you're torn and you should have to take, you know, pick one side over the other or choose, you know, one way opposed to it a different way. And, you know, I love what, you know, Reverend Carter is saying, because, again, we allow so much of what other people think, believe, don't believe, to really control us and our happiness. And I do think that, you know, once you kind of achieve, or you get to the point where that's not important, and, you know, you do spend, you know, more of your time trying to, I mean, you can't avoid, you know, negativity and the things that go on in the world, but we can, you know, choose to not let it affect us as greatly as so many, you know, people do. You know, like, what are your, you know, your thoughts? Because, I mean, obviously,
I think,
go ahead.
I think and I feel this way. We are human beings, and we want that connection. And especially
Right.
the people we love and care about, if they don't accept us, it's off-putting. It can be scary, and so it's nothing wrong with wanting that. I'm not saying that we have to be, well, hey man, I just don't care what you think. I'm just an island unto myself. No. But I am saying, like your show. Let's say there are people listening now who may have had some bizarre experiences or experiences, and when they hear your show and other shows, they hear that, hey, I'm not alone. Let me email this person. Let me talk to this person. I'm not talking about being an isolationist, and I want to be clear with that. Yeah, it hurts when people we love and care about think we're crazy or they don't get that. But then there is the part that you have to push on anyway. That's what the hero's journey is. That's what the shero's journey is, that you push on anyway. And it took me this long of a time, you know, to get to where I am. So nothing is ever wasted. And people are out there in pain. What about people who have had anal probes and sperm and ovum taken, and, you know, they really say, hey, man, these Greys, I don't know what Michael's talking about, but these brothers, they play for key, or what have you. And those are very real experiences. And you need to be able to talk. You need to be able to get around like-minded people. I just say that everybody's story is worth hearing. I know from other people that just because you're in another body, or just because you come somewhere on a ship from another dimension or wherever, that doesn't mean you're smarter than me. That doesn't mean you want to be my best friend. I'm giving another option, because we also don't want to say, you know, that all ETs are of the devil, that all women are this, that all black people are that. Once you start doing that, man, you've lost the game. But the point is that there are other sides to the story. And, you know, it is about human evolution. Even if there were no extraterrestrials here, when you go to church on Sunday, when you do your yoga, if you don't go to church, wherever you do, if you walk in nature, part of that is to commune with others, and part of that is to grow. That's what human evolution, you know, it's just a big word for being aware. For transcendence. That's what life is. Life is about growth. Look at nature. Look around you. And so this is what it's about until you go back to your source, which we all do eventually. But life is who was it? Kierkegaard says that life is lived forward, but it's only understood backwards. So how do you grow? You sit still. You listen. You get quiet. You go over your day. Yeah, you go over your day at the end of the day. Oh, that was good. That wasn't, you know, I could have been a better person in that situation. I'll do better next time. Maybe I need to go tell Christina, man, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Well, maybe she needs to tell me. It's all about growth. It's like in the 12 steps. It's not about perfection, man.
Right.
It's
perfect, you know.
It's about progress.
Absolutely. Renee, I know that you probably have some questions as well. Is there anything that you want to?
Yeah. Because, you know, he's touched on a lot of stuff, you know, even some of the things that I've gone through, you know, I've been basically raised, in a Christian organization before, and I was treated really badly because of my own beliefs, and Christina, knowing where I came from in the first place, the family couldn't handle it. I'm no longer with any of my blood relatives because I'm so different. So, because they also found out, they watched a television show talking about, my past life thing, and so they basically just shut me out. And so the only family I have is, who I have right here, with our team and you. So,
but sometimes those like-minded people, we're born in and given family by blood, but there are so many people that you can connect with that or sometimes will create a bond that is just as strong as if you were blood related, just as there's many blood related relatives that you feel that you have nothing in common with other than you share some DNA. So bringing those like-minded people around it, I think, is important.
But because sometimes it's your blood relatives, they'll stab you quicker than
heck yes.
who don't know you. So you make your own family, and
absolutely.
You look at archetypes. That's what I do, and that's why the Bible still means a lot to me, because I look at those stories and I just try to make how do those stories make sense now? Now, some things have been changed and altered and whatever, but people thought Jesus was crazy. They thought he had a demon.
Very true.
There was something wrong with him. That he was proclaiming these things in his ministry, and so we all go through that. And if Jesus doesn't do it for you, look up some of the Buddha stuff when he left home. This man left his wife and kids to go and search for truth. They must have been made of brass. He left his wife and kids. Here's a man who was raised in a palace. But he was living a sheltered life. And so you draw on these stories. What in those stories makes sense to me now? Am I going? And I think you can do that with the Bible. I was an atheist at one time because, I've been lied to, and I needed to grow up, and then I was an agnostic. And that was okay. It was part of my journey. And then I was a Buddhist, and I went through it, and I incorporate all that in, but I can never get away from the teachings of Jesus. Now, I'm born here in the West. If I was born in Tibet, it may have been Buddhism. If I was born in the Mideast, it may have been Brother Muhammad. But I'm here, and those teachings, they always came back to me. And I did research on my own, so everything the church told me wasn't true, so I had to do my own research. But that's the example to me. It's not the only way. I just read something the other day. It was talking about spiritual growth of religion is like going up a mountain, and we all take a different path. But the person who's running around the mountain telling everybody they're on the wrong path, that's the one that's lost.
Oh, yeah, true.
And so, you follow your bliss. You follow what takes you there. For some, it's atheism. For some, it's Hinduism. For some, it's I don't know and I don't care. For some, it's the teachings of Jesus. But it's not about I have the truth and you don't. That's how people wind up getting their heads cut off by ISIS, or Christian crusades where we burn witches at this thing. You can see why people have said, you know what, I'm done with religion because these people are acting a fool. You can see why people say, and I got there at one time, but then I had to remember my parents are religious, but they're very open-minded. Dr. King's movement, the civil rights movement, was a religious movement. So all religion is not bad. It's how people interpret it and put it in their life. I'm sure if Buddha or Muhammad or Jesus came back, I'm sure they would say, you know what, gang, this is not quite what I had in mind. I'm sure Muhammad did not say, you got to cut off everybody's head who doesn't believe. I'm sure that's not what he said. I have 2 Qurans here.
Right,
but I can make it. I can take a text and make it say anything I want. I can take the Bible, and remember, the Bible was used to keep people slaves. The Bible was used to keep women barefoot and pregnant. I can take a book and make it anything I want.
Right. And again, I went through a very similar, thing as well, because being, raised Catholic, that's all I ever knew. And I kind of turned my back on the whole, Catholicism, and was like, okay, I'm done. I've got to go find my own answers. And, it was strange. I probably, attended or, researched or done some research in just about every religion out there. I was so, I think, eager, to try to find where I fit in, because, it was very strange. For people who are very religious, go to church on the truths are, as a society, like, we can handle it. I think that we're not getting enough credit.
That's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you, I know you have a lot of shows, and you may not have had time to look at the book. But if you get a chance, read my chapter on Catholicism, on E.T. Call Home, about and read. I think it's page 25 or 27.
Yes.
And
I think I'm right before that.
That to me was even worse to read, because I learned some new things. Yeah, it's harder to unlearn things.
Yeah.
Sometimes than it is to learn something new, and it teaches us patience. It teaches us forgiveness of others and ourselves, and so that's really what the whole journey is about, I feel. And again, you can discover that whether you've had ET visitations or not. That's what it's about, to learn to love and to learn to forgive. And of course, there's, dealing with issues of power, not just political power, but personal power. What are my boundaries? Who am I really? Because you're unlearning everything. When you're young and you're a kid, you're going on what people say you are, even your parents.
Right.
And then as you find out sometimes, I'm nothing like that at all. And so that's the beginning of the journey. And it's difficult. And you lose some people on the way. And sometimes you lose yourself on the way, if that's ever really possible. But it is to evolve. And you can look back over your life and say, man, What a journey. And it's different for everybody. Some people's stories are harder. Some people have gone through sexual abuse, or maybe they've been raped, or maybe you're a person of color living in a dominant society, or maybe you're gay living, or you're a woman. I mean, we all pick our paths. And sometimes people have so much hurt, I don't know how they go through it, but they do.
Right.
They do.
Right.
And that's the journey. And you listen to it and you go, man, boy, let me tell you what I went through. Not that I have a pity party, but once I become vulnerable with you, then you become vulnerable with me. And then we put the mask down. See?
Right.
Because you say, hey, man, I thought you were this way, man, but you're really totally different than what I thought. How many times have you had that? Or you've had to say that about, you meet somebody and you got them all boxed in, you judge them, you got their number. And then you get to know them and you go, man, wow, I was really off base here.
Right. Right. Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, because I can really know how to judge people. Oh boy, yeah. I'm on the Myers-Briggs thing. I'm an ENFJ. Oh yeah, I can really put you in the box. Oh yeah. I can tell you that one. But and then I'm always wrong. And so now I just try not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm always wrong about it. You can.
Well, and a lot of people do that too. They don't take time to get to know anybody. They'll judge people based on what other people say, think, do, without having any clue. And you're absolutely right, because I get people all the time that, say for whatever reason, maybe they heard something negative that somebody said about me, and, which then is like, oh, I want to know more about this person, and then they will, go to my page or listen to my shows, and they're, like, wow, that doesn't seem like the same person where we've heard about. And then the next thing you know, they contact me, and they're talking to me, and it's exactly what you said. They'll say, wow, we never, would have thought that you were, this nice person. People had you all, made out to be this horrible person. But I think that people, need to pay more attention to, what they get than, and get to know somebody yourself before judging than to judge based by what other people say and do. Because most people, when they have negative things to say, it is usually because they have some kind of personal, interest in it or things like that. Because how many people, there's people that I may be disliking in life, but I'm not out there every day saying, hey, everybody, I dislike this person, or, just be on a wave of trying to get people to not like others. But there are people out there like that. So, again, we need to, like, when you get in situations like that, push those negative people away. That's really all that we can do. Because, again, I keep telling people over and over, we give other people way too much control over our happiness and our lives.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's one of the lessons, too, because then we can be victimized, but we don't have to be victims. But if other people are to blame, then we're not accountable. And if you're not accountable, then you're not responsible. And if you're not responsible, you're really not a human. To be human is to be accountable. To be human is to be responsible. I'll tell you a quick story. Is there some feedback? I hear like...
Yeah, I'm hearing some feedback.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not sure. We'll go, maybe the producers will try to hear it. I was hearing it too.
Let me share something with you real quick along those lines, and then I'll leave it alone. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I used to be a chaplain at a hospital here, and I had gone into a room to meet this woman who was dying, and she was a mountain woman, okay, and she was lovely, and she died, but we built up such a rapport. And one day she said to me, Michael, I want you to meet my family. And I said, sure. I mean, we hit it off. We would talk about life after death or life after life, and it was almost like we knew each other. Different cultures. So anyway, she says, I want you to meet my family. Okay, let's make it happen. So 2 days later, I go to the oncology ward, and I walk into the room, and they're really small, and she had her whole family there. And she had, you heard of the group ZZ Top?
Yes, of course.
She had two sons who looked like ZZ Top, big burly brothers with these long beards and T-shirts, and they had all these Confederate flags on their T-shirts and all these tattoos. So when I walk in the room, all conversation ceases.
Right.
So I come in, I introduce myself, I say, hi, I'm Chaplain Carter, I'm the chaplain here, and your mom asked me to stop by. And she goes, yes, this is the guy I was telling you about. This is the guy I was telling you about. And so, I went over to shake ZZ Top #1, his hand, and he barely shook my hand. And, it was just really uncomfortable. And they said to me, who asked you to come here? And I said, your mom asked me to come here, but if you don't need a chaplain. He said, we don't need a chaplain. Who asked you to come here? So I said, oh, well, I started backing out of the room. I said, okay, well, look, if you need me, I'm here, and I'm backing out of the room, and I say goodbye to her, and I walk, and I go to the elevator, and I'm thinking not good thoughts about those brothers. I'm calling them in my mind of crackers and white people, and they probably didn't like me because I had long dreadlocks, and who the hell they think they are, and I'm going on and on and on and on and on and on. And so I get to the elevator, and I press the button, I turn around, and one of the ZZ Tops is coming out of the room, and he's coming towards me. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know whether he's angry or whatever. I don't know whether I should sing We Shall Overcome. I didn't know what to do. So I make pretend I don't see him. He taps me on the shoulder, and he says, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, boy, it's on now. So I said, sure, what is it? And he blew me away. He said, I want to apologize to you about what happened back there. He said, my mom is dying. They told me the day that the cancer has spread. I haven't told the family yet, and I'm angry. I'm angry at you. I'm angry at this hospital. I'm angry at God. And he went on and on and on. He said, I just want to apologize to you because my mom told us about you and how you've been a great help to her. And so he went back to the room. He went back to the room. I felt 2 feet tall because I thought it was all about me.
Right.
And I judged him because his Confederate flag. Now, I'm not saying everybody with a Confederate flag wants to be my best friend. I'm not that.
Right,
naive. But I judged him. But it had nothing to do with me at all. It was the pain he was in.
Right.
And so that's what judgment does. It makes you not see things right because you're so busy thinking about you.
That's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it wasn't about me at all. I thought it was. It wasn't about me. So.
And it shouldn't be about us. But I think that, you're right. It's like, people, again, get so used to just the way we've been brought up or the way, things people have told us, that this is how it is. And, again, I know many people, especially I've got lots of friends who have, say tattoos and things. And right away people think that, oh, these are bad people and they're, criminals and all these kind of things. And, these are some, the people that I've met have been some of the nicest people that would be the first person to come to your aid if you needed any help. But they're completely misjudged just because of the way they look.
The way they look, yeah. And these are the things that our religions and spirituality, if we took very seriously, we wouldn't do that. I mean, I've seen some of these ETs are the most bizarre-looking people I've ever seen, some of them. But they have done me no harm.
Right.
They have done me no harm. And
we've talked about this before, Reverend Carter, when we've talked about, people, are afraid of what they don't understand. Right. And it's like once they understand, have a better understanding, that fear tends to go away.
It does. And again, I want to be clear that there are people who have had negative experiences, and I honor that. I mean, I'm not trying to be,
of course,
condescending or paternalistic. But, yes, I've had painful, they've done things that kind of hurt. But I'm glad I've gone through what I've gone through, and it's just opened me up to so many possibilities. And you know, the title of the book I got from Lieutenant Corso. He had written a book that he didn't have published, and you probably know his book, The Day After Roswell.
Yes.
And he talked about, and he said, and I talk about it in the book, so you already know this story, but he said he was, you know, walking around the base in the White Sands in Mexico, and he saw a being. And the being telepathically said to him, if you give me, 10 minutes, I will be gone. And, you know, basically this never happened. Just don't do anything crazy. And Corso said, who are you? Who are you? And why should I give you 10 minutes? And, you know, and the being said, look, you know, why you should give it to because what do I get out of the deal is what Corso was saying. And he says, the ET said, a new world, if you can take it. And that always stuck with me. And that's why I put the story in the book, and that's why that's how I got my title. A New World.
Oh, okay.
Take it. Yeah, that's how I got the title of the book. And I really do believe that the next phase of human consciousness, it's like when Jesus says greater works, you know, Jesus to me is the great example. He's not the great exception. He's saying that what I am is potential in each and every one of you if you would only learn to believe it. Yeah. That you can heal, that you can love, that you can treat each other. Because for me, he's a hybrid. And so what he's talking about is otherworldly philosophy. He's talking about this is how we treat people where I come from.
Right.
Okay? This is how we treat people. When Buddha is talking about detachment and non-attachment, he's saying this is how you can get along in this world. This is wisdom. These are other. This is how we get along where I come from, where my spirit comes from. And it's very hard. We have a hard time doing it today. And now we're on the brink of destroying ourselves and this planet because of this ego we have and this belief in separateness. Mm-hmm. And now that belief in separateness it can become lethal for us. And that's what these beings are trying to tell us. You can evolve. You're better than this. But you are precariously close to self-destructing. And we're just here to give guidance. We can't solve your problems for you. But we can give you some guidance. And it's just very difficult because of the way we were raised, and you know people focus on what they don't want. You know, if you don't want crime to go down, you don't focus on the crime. You focus on making the crime go down.
Right.
But we will focus on the problem instead of, you know, the King tells us peace is not the goal. The goal is not to be at peace. Peace is the tool you use to achieve your goals. That's a very different way of looking at life. Yeah. You know, like I said, if you're broke, you don't focus on how broke you are. You focus on the abundance that's around you. How can I get this? I'll put this out. I'll meditate on this. I'll focus on this. But we focus on what we say we don't want. And quantum physics tells us that what you focus on, you create. So if you want more love, then stop focusing on fear.
True.
Very, very true. I'm sorry, I'm kind of in and out of here. I'm talking on chat with our producers, and it looks like we may have a caller that was on hold, so I'm trying to check and see. Caller, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
You can hear me?
I can hear you. Who's this?
This is Bonnie Freeman.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. I was listening to the conversation, and I really enjoyed listening. I got into the conversation a little bit later.
It's Reverend Michael Carter.
How are you? Yeah, I was telling the story about me being a chaplain.
No.
But I made a fool out of myself. Go on.
It sounded like it. And, through my years, I was an abductee since I was a very young child. And growing up, I believed, and still do, that either I'm a half-breed alien or an alien itself. But I know that it was very hard growing up, and especially my mom had us going to church, and I had 10 brothers and sisters. And through my whole years, I've been looking for, a priest or a chaplain or somebody that I could actually speak to about it, because, Catholics and Christians and all of these Orthodox churches and everything, is what they do is they have a set belief on what was and not what can be. They have their own set rules, their own Bibles, for that matter. And the thing is, it's always been real tough for a person like me, because you can't actually go in and just talk to any priest about something like this, because they'll look at you like you're crazy, especially when you start bringing Jesus into the scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and everything that I taught is based on Jesus, but not the Jesus that they're talking about. My beliefs are more towards the pyramids and who Jesus was and what he taught, and the same thing that you were just talking about. He didn't come here as just a normal person. He came here to teach his way of life. Yeah. And as far as aliens go, that's the same thing. They're teaching their way of life. And I was just so amazed at how right on both you, everything that you said was just, I was in amazement, because I thought, God, I like this guy. I had no idea you guys could hear me.
Oh, well, listen.
Oh, it's okay.
Do this.
My goodness, I didn't know I was. I thought I was just listening to the show.
You were, but my producer was able to let us know that that there was somebody who was on hold. And I mean, obviously, for people who don't know, I actually know Bonnie, and I invited her to listen to the show. And I thought it would be, a great place for her to listen to topics like this. And, again, how interesting that, the first show that you listened to happens to be with Reverend Carter, and, such an amazing man, especially when it comes to, extraterrestrial life and, and religion. So I thought it was a great time for you to listen to this. So I'm so glad that, you're enjoying the show, and, as we've talked, and, I'm going to, be connecting you with, more people within our group and things to give you somebody or a group of people to be able to talk to about these kinds of things, because it is important that, those of us who have these experiences, have a place to be able to talk about this stuff and not be, looked at crazy or judged or, all these things that we're so used to experiencing.
Well, Bonnie, if you're still there, my my email is Michael, Michael, J as in Jerry, S as in Sam, Carter @charter.net. If you ever want to talk, or maybe we could Skype. Pick up my books. I hope you have, and because it's right. I'm talking about exactly what you're talking about. They're on Amazon. And
what is your book called? What is your book called?
My first book is called Alien Scriptures. The subtitle is ETs in the Holy Bible, and my second book is called A New World If You Can Take It. You can get it both on Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
I would absolutely love to read this. Now, I got the J.S. Carter.
Yes, Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, yes.
So, Carter.
But if you want to email me at Michael J.S. Carter @charter.net.
And I'll get you that information as well, Bonnie, after the show. I'll get you that link for you as well.
We can talk more.
I would love that. And Reverend Carter, I just think you're an amazing man. I'm just astonished at the things you were saying, because there's just not many like you out there. who can have an open mind and who can put things into perspective like you're putting them. And the world is eventually going to have to change. Change is good. And the world is going to eventually have to catch on to there's more out there than just us. You know, there's more to human behavior. There's more to life. And we're not alone. And we're making it more comfortable for people that have experienced this through death. For people like me who've experienced through my entire life. And Reverend Carter, it's been very difficult growing up and trying to talk to anyone for that matter. Now, I was lucky.
I know there are other people who want to come on, but contact me and we will talk.
I would love that.
Yeah, I got to go out of town Friday for the weekend, but if you email me tonight or you email me tomorrow, I'll get back to you, and we'll go from there. But pick up the books because they'll answer a lot of your questions, and then we can discuss it. And I thank you.
Yeah, and I will send you all the links and his email address, Bonnie, and for the other people who are listening and also in chat, because I'm getting messages as well, people wanting to know where they can get the book, if it's available on Kindle.
Kindle,
correct.
It's on Kindle. It's paperback, and you can get it at Barnes & Nobles and or Amazon.
All right, perfect. So we'll get those links up for everybody, and you definitely, check those books out. They're readily available, and as I said, there's 2 different books out now, so they're both, as you can hear, some great information out there. So we'll make sure that that's all available for everybody to check out, and you can find that on the Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond Facebook page. We'll make all those available. But, isn't it great? I mean, again, Reverend Carter, when you come on the show and things like that, it's people like our listeners and our caller that just called in that makes it so amazing what we do. Because there are so many people, even though there's so much information out there, I think there's so many people who still feel very alone when it comes to these kinds of topics. It's sad and unfortunate that it is that way. But that's how it is. So, I'm so glad that you came on because, just having one person call in and say, how much, listening to you has helped them, for me is like amazing. I'm like, okay, this is exactly why I do this.
And you're giving me the forum. So if it really wasn't not for you, I wouldn't have the forum. And of course, for the listeners. And remember, we want to be able to talk to lonely brothers and sisters out there, and there are many people out there who do. And but just remember that there's a lot of people who are seeing the world change and who want to be a part of that. And, And you always keep that in mind because powers that be used to tell us, obviously, that they can't handle it. Like Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. Well, we can handle it. We can handle it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, we've been, it's been shown over and over that, the human race is very resilient, and we can, pretty much handle whatever's thrown our way, one way or another, whether, we want to or not. We're quite an interesting species, all in our in our own.
Yeah, we are. And it reminds me of what we were talking about. Our government obviously is still saying that there's no such thing as UFOs, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands of classified documents to prove it. But in some ways, I think that, yes, people have lost their lives for this, and we can't forget that. I think we will probably have to have some amnesty or something when disclosure does officially happen, because a lot of people were really persecuted, and they were just telling the truth. And But I think that there was that element of that people in power, they probably didn't know how to explain to the public that, hey, man, we can't control our airspace, they were afraid, and of course they were greedy, powerful people who don't want the energy and the free energy and stuff like that to get out. But, they probably were really afraid and didn't know what to do. But now these lies upon lies upon lies for the last 60 years, it's caught up with them.
Right.
And that's what happens eventually. No lie, Victor Hugo says, no lie lives forever. And so perhaps there'll be some amnesty for people because, again, there have been people who were killed. I mean, there were pilots who had died chasing UFOs or maybe firing upon them. And, they, of course, they didn't tell the families this is what happened.
Right.
So it's just complicated and it can be a mess. So hopefully we'll live to see that day. I do hear you about Catholicism, but I think Catholicism is in a great position because, you do make room for saints and angels, for messengers. And my friend Rosemary Starr, she's Catholic, a very talented healer, and she told me about, and you do, just like the Hindu pantheon. They have different lesser gods, but they're all aspects of the same. There's a god of compassion, there's a god of destruction, but they're all aspects, characteristics of the one, the Brahman. And so, and the Brahman is an energy. And I think once we can get away from this male white god up in the sky, who is going to punish you if you're naughty, and who's going to reward you if you're nice. That's the kind of thing you say to your child.
Right. To scare them into doing what they're supposed to be doing. But
the universe doesn't work that way.
Right.
And,
well, even parenting, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, you try to scare your kids to, keep them from, doing things you don't want them to do, but yet, instead they're like, oh, well, if they're telling me they absolutely don't want me to do this, it must be something really, really good that I should absolutely be trying or doing.
It's about connectedness. It's about, what I do to myself, I do to you. And what you do to yourself, you do to me. And that's a more mature kind of way to behave on this planet, and in order to interact with others who may not even look like us or think like us, but they are part of us. And I think that's where we want to evolve to. That's where we have to evolve to,
right?
If we're going to, create the world we say we want. Gandhi says, "Be the change you want to see in the world. You want love, then be love. You want to have a friend, then be a friend. We are that powerful. We create our own realities, and that's godlike. Now that doesn't mean we won't have struggle. That doesn't mean we won't have challenges. But we create the way we look at the world is the way the world will treat us.
Very true.
That's just the way energy works.
But where do you see, us say in the next 10 years? We've got a lot of people, especially in the religious world, stating that, the end of the world is coming, and things like that. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I don't believe in an end of the world. I will say, and then I'll answer your question, we just touched on it. If Christianity is still the largest religion on the planet, so let's say there are 80 million Christians. I don't know how many there are. And they all focus on the end of the world. Well, we can create that. We can create Armageddon. Because I believe in Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, that there are possible realities, that anything is possible. Every ending is a new beginning. But I can focus on Armageddon, or I can focus on creating the world I want to see. I see us in 10 years, dealing with these problems, but dealing with it like a dysfunctional family. The difference between a functional family and a dysfunctional family is that dysfunctional people don't deal with problems. Functional people do. Functional people, it's not that they don't have problems. It's just that we deal with them. I see. We only have two ways we can go here. Either we can put the brakes on and really start creating the world we want, which I believe, I have the audacity to believe that we will. And we may not, but I have the audacity to believe that we will. But I have to be part of that solution. I can't sit around saying we're going to hell in a handbasket and then complain about it when we do.
Right. Right.
You know,
it's true.
Oh man, because if it's over, then why get up in the morning? If it's really the end of the world, why don't you just give me all your money, because you're not going to need it, and you don't go to work, and you sit here and you wait for Jesus to come after we bomb each other to death, if that's what you think. Or you're worried about the asteroid that might hit us or what have you. All those things may happen, but I will know with my dying breath that I made the world a better place. I didn't sit around saying, oh, my God, look what's going on. Does that mean there are no problems? Of course not. But it means you have to be part of the solution. And do you want to focus on Armageddon, or do you want to focus on, do you want to focus on fear, or do you want to focus on love? It's that simple. And if you want to focus on fear, that's fine. Just get out of my way, because you're blocking the people that want to focus on love.
Right.
Yeah.
And distracting us from what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus lived in empire. Rome was cruel. People were getting beaten up and killed just because they were Jews. They had their Fergusons in Jerusalem. They had their Fergusons in Palestine. They had their Ukraines. They had people going over into other people. There were wars and rumors of wars. And Jesus said, what do? You keep on remembering that you're children of God. You keep on remembering that forgiveness and love is what it's about. You keep on doing that. You keep on doing that. You don't get down. You stay in community.
True.
I mean, he had to go through the same things. The Roman Empire was the cruelest military machine on the face of the planet.
Very true. Very true. Why do you think that as a society that we have, especially with as many, not even so much religious people, but why do you think people have such a hard time forgiving? Because
we're taught that's when I was younger, he's just a punk. That's the punk's way out. Because we're taught that it's okay to do revenge, an eye for an eye. We're taught that forgiveness is weak. Forgiveness is weak. I mean, look what happened to Bill Maher. No, that's a different point I was going to make. But no, forgiveness that's not part of the lexicon, man. I'm not going to forgive you. I'm going to get you.
Right.
I'm going to get you back.
And usually they want to, even get you even worse.
That's what we see in Israel. That's what we see in America. We believe in revenge. We may call it justice, but that's not justice. That's revenge.
Right.
But yet we're a Christian nation.
And that's what's going on now. I hear what stuff is going on in New York. Between the police and the crowds that they're protesting. You push me and we push you back, and next you know it escalates, and it feeds that energy of that negativity instead of turning it around in a positive way. Could have avoided a riot and so.
Well, see, remember now, but you have to be careful, because during the Civil Rights Movement we saw that, and King said that peace is not that justice. It's not the absence of tension. You're going to have tension.
Right.
But it's what you do with it. If I'm marching and I'm demonstrating peacefully, then that's okay. But you got people who say, I can't demonstrate peacefully, then you're still going to, it gets more and more complicated. And I'm not saying that every in that situation that every marcher is a paragon of virtue. Please, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying someone's going to have the courage to take the high ground.
Right.
But if I say I'm not going to do it because they didn't do it, my 8-year-old doesn't say that.
Right. Right.
And so that's why love is hard work. Whether you're in a marriage or whether it's with your fellow human beings, love takes work.
Yeah, that is very true.
Love takes work. being a diverse society, diversity takes work. And I'm not just talking about racial. I mean, diversity is the different things. Geography, different ideas. To listen to people's ideas that differ from yours. That takes work. That takes patience. That takes maturity.
And a lot that we don't see, from people, now everybody tells us how to, raise our children, the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things. Like everything, I feel like, everybody is so told or directed on, what they're supposed to do, think, believe that they're lost whenever they don't have, somebody pointing them in the right direction.
Right, but you know why? Because we've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
We've been brainwashed. We don't know better. That's why Jesus could forgive somebody while he was being spit upon on a cross. They don't know what they're doing. They're like little kids. Even though, I mean, if you believe the story, even if I'm nailed up here, what kind of mind would say, you know what we should do with this person? We should nail this person to a piece of wood. What kind of mind thinks of that?
Right.
What kind of mind says, you know what, we need to behead these two? I mean, what kind of mind, a sick mind?
Sure.
And so Jesus said, well, they're like kids. You don't stay angry at kids because they don't know any better.
Right.
Yeah. And so we've been brainwashed. We've been sold a bill of goods. Now, does that make it all right? No. But what it does is, instead of us judging the people, we can start to say, well, they don't know. I didn't know at one time. I didn't know. It's not so separate. We were there at one time, maybe not in the same way.
Right.
And so then that's how you keep your compassion. Otherwise, you start to go into, they don't get it, but I do. And boy, these fools don't get it. I'm special, I have space people coming to see me. Boy, I'm really the cat's meow. And really, no, I put my pants on and go to the bathroom just like anybody else.
Yeah, very, very true. And a lot of times, like you said, people don't see any of this. I see so many people, nowadays that, it's all about, their egos. Everybody thinks they're better than somebody else, and it's just
that. We've been taught fear, and so the patience has to come in. Patience has to come in. Remember, there was probably a time when you didn't get it, and people had to be patient with you. And me. And so that's how you can say, I have to forgive that person. Because you don't see them as different from you. You just see them that you're at a different place on your journey.
Right. And that forgiveness is so important. Not, maybe so much for, the person that it's geared towards, but for yourself. I mean, people don't understand that, holding on to grudges and anger and all of this, how bad it is for you. I mean, to be able to, I think people, it's easy for them to say, okay, I've forgiven, but they really haven't. They say it, they go through the motions, but they don't feel it. So, every time something happens, it's like it happens all over again.
Forgiveness can take years.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't happen right away. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not trying to be self-righteous. I'm just trying to say, remember the times when people had said that to you, or me maybe, and we didn't get it.
Right.
We weren't ready to forgive. But remember, all I'm saying is that remembering those times keeps us from getting self-righteous, from getting grandiose, because we were all there. Maybe just at a different time, or the right person came our way, the right teacher, the right book, the right star person, the right spirit guide. And we said, okay, now I get it.
Like, now it makes sense.
Now I get it.
Or sometimes, too, in forgiving people, it's just not just saying I forgive them, but it's just standing down to them. It's just saying, okay, I I can't fight against this, and I can't argue the point, and maybe we just disagree, and then just standing down and saying, I still love you. And then, like he said, time takes that place, and eventually we forget, and eventually everybody comes back together again.
And if you do, you do, and if you don't, you don't. It's like the Buddha said,
right.
You don't get attached to the outcome. You do good because good is good to do. You don't do it because, you know what, well, if I do this, maybe this will happen. And that's hard to do.
Right.
That's what the
do something without an expectation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you're not expecting to
it's
together.
a way to live.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Because then you don't have any expectation. What would you
Sorry. Go ahead, Donnie.
Oh, I was just saying that, also in life, as you were saying, how we're raised in school to believe one thing, and in churches we end up believing another thing, and then as we grow up, we say, hey, wait a minute, we stop and we look around, and everything that we believed in all of this time, seems not to be true anymore. And so it's almost like focusing your life on who you are, what you really believe in, and what life is all about. And I believe that it's just not words that can, make your life, or the way you talk to people, or the way you treat them. I believe that it's also action. So, in other words, when you're bringing people together and you say kind things to people, and even if they cut you off, you don't need to, be mean to them because they cut you off, or they do something to you. I believe in feeding it back with love. And I've learned in life, it's not a matter of winning or losing, but I've learned in life it's the only way of survival is just, it's like love, peace, and beauty all around you, and continue to feel that and continue to spread it. And the more you spread it around you, the more it happens around you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're right. I agree with that. I mean, for me, and it's part of the maturation process, I just, as I got older, I just don't have to be right anymore. That's, my ego is just a little softer. I don't have to be right. It doesn't matter if I'm right. Sometimes, I have to say, Michael, do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace?
Right.
And there's times when I want to be right, but not half as much now. I just want to be at peace. And so if it means that much for someone else to be right, let them be right.
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 Yeah, it's not worth all the fighting and arguing that you have to go through just to prove. I always tell people, we may not always, agree or think the same way, but I am completely okay to agree to disagree. Not everybody has to think the same way. And, for people to, try to force, any opinion, on somebody, I just think, is not right, to do. Not everybody is in the same place. Just as you were saying, Reverend Carter, there are people that are at different, walks of life, at different, points in their lives of, their journey. And, where some of us, get this now, there's other people that, still have a long way to go before they're gonna get it. But I don't, push any of my opinions or thoughts or anything on anybody, because who am I to say that, what I say or what I think is the only way to believe.
Exactly. We have a wonderful saying in our Unitarian Universalist tradition at my church. It's, we don't have to think alike to love alike.
Beautiful.
Yeah. We don't have to think alike to love alike.
I love that.
I love that.
We don't have to.
It's kind of funny though in some aspects too, because I know Christina knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody wants to be a Christina, and they want to look like her, act like her.
You don't want to be me. I'm telling you, people. You don't want to be me. Jesus, trying to be somebody else.
When you're trying to be somebody else, I mean, this happens, worldwide. People want to be like a certain athlete. They want to be like this actor. This music performer, and they want to be just like them. They dress like them. They try to act like them. But that's the main thing. Be yourself, because you have to learn who you are.
Exactly.
Not what the other person is.
But
That's
you
your
can't
own
be
journey.
yourself if you don't know who you are, because who do I give to you? But I agree with you 100%. And that's the journey, finding out who you are. But what's the old adage that be yourself, because everyone else is already taken. So,
boy, is that true.
You have to learn to be yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and people are so, always think that, the grass is going to be greener on the other side. I mean, people, look at me and they'll say, oh, people love you and this and that, all these things. For me, it's very, I don't know, Renee will tell you, it's very hard for me to take compliments, because I don't see the same thing that others see in me. I just try to do my best. I try to help those that I can, and it's not about me. So having people, then, say, oh, I wish I was, like you, and you're such a great person, and, no, I'm just like anybody else. I'm nobody special. That's for darn sure. I mean, I may be somebody who has, a special journey and special mission that I have to do here in this world, but I'm not anybody, special. That's for sure.
But you're loved.
Well, and I love everybody too. I mean, I think that's, I love what I do. I absolutely, and I think that's what keeps, me going and keeps my shows going, even with everything that, I go through in my own personal life and my health and things like that. I absolutely, love what I do. And, I mean, how can it be any better, than to have a job that you truly love to do, opposed to, you're doing it, because that's what your job is.
Yeah.
Well, we've got about 8 minutes, so do you want to let's talk a little bit about your upcoming season and episodes of the Ancient Aliens. So this season, you've got stuff coming out, huh?
Well, we some of those things have already aired. Back in July, we shot maybe 3 or 4 episodes, but they repeat them. They started airing like late September, beginning of October, which was great because the way it timed out, because I had done an Edgar Casey Ancient Mysteries conference the second week in October. So the universe in its infinite wisdom, some of the episodes started airing at that time, but they're repeating them. It's anything on season 7. It was a few of them. It was one we did on the Watchers, and one on Noah's Ark, and one on the importance of caves and religious life. You'll see those. And I'm just very happy to be on there. I mean, they give me an opportunity to get the word out. So keep your eyes open for those. I just want to thank you again for this opportunity. I want to just take the time to let people know again, Barnes & Nobles, they can pick up the books. They're pretty reasonable. Then you can get them on Kindle. And, it was a fascinating conversation. You can reach me on my website, michaeljscarter.com, or you can email me at michaeljscarter@charter.net, or you can just Google me, Reverend Michael J. S. Carter, and things will come up and you can look at it. I'm always glad to be on your show, Christina. We always have a very well-rounded conversation.
Well, thank you so much.
And your listeners are intelligent and they ask good questions and comments. It's a pleasure for me to do it.
Well, as always, thank you so much for coming. I always enjoy, having you on and discussing all of this. And, you kind of becoming a regular on the show. Would love to keep you coming on the show and updating us on everything that's going on. I will make sure to add all of your links of where people can find your books as well as your website and everything else. And just keep up the good work. I'm sorry?
Will I get a link for you from the show?
Absolutely, yes. I will get that to you. I should have it to you by the morning. And, yeah, absolutely. Feel free to share it all you'd like.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
And is anytime that you have anything new, coming up, or you want to talk on the show, you're always welcome here. Love having you here as usual.
Thank you, Christina.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And Renee, thank you, brother, for jumping in and telling your story. And Christina, keep me in mind. I mean, we can talk about topics. It doesn't always have to be about star people, but I love doing your show, and if I can fit in any way, just give me a shout.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. So, yeah, there's so many different things that we can, talk about.
Yeah.
So I am definitely looking forward to it.
So I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a wonderful New Year.
Absolutely, and I would like to say the same to you. So, all right, everybody. Well, we are coming towards the end of the show, and going to have a interesting month this month. Now, as many know, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve both fall on a Wednesday. So, on the 24th and 31st, we will not be airing a live show. Got to give our production team some time to rest over the holidays, so we're going to be doing that. But next week I am going to I'm trying to think of his last name, but Dennis from American Stonehenge, I believe. So we're going to have him on, Dennis Stone, from American Stonehenge. He will be here with us on the 17th. It's going to be a awesome show. So make sure to check us out. Make sure to check out our Facebook page, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. We'll make sure to put all of Reverend Carter's links up for his books. Make sure to go out there and get them and leave him some great feedback. Awesome guest, great friend. Always love having you on, Reverend Carter. So thank you again so much.
All right.
Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to Renee for being here with us tonight, even with all the difficulties, and always helping out like you do. And mostly, thank you to all of our listeners. Without all of you, there would be nobody out there that wanted to hear all of this. So we appreciate every week that you guys show up, and not only to this show, but to the other shows that I host. So thank you so much for all of the support that you give us. We will see you next week, same time, same channel. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. All right, good night.
Group hugs, everybody.